All right, for much more, let's bring in KT McFarland, my friend, former Deputy National Security Advisor. Welcome, KT. It's a pleasure to have you.
Great to be with you.
Just to pick up on this stuff, I'm sure you would like to see us haul off his dinghy, his big
Oh, for sure.
right?
That's just a no-brainer. That should have been done a week ago. Come on, sell it for parts and then give the money to Ukrainian refugees. Okay.
In all seriousness, why are we talking? Why haven't they done that? It just seems, I don't get it. We're afraid of them.
They're terribly
Biden's
risk-averse. And by being so risk-averse, they're actually creating a lot more risks because they're giving Putin the green light to do whatever he wants in Ukraine and then to keep going.
Every time he rattles our cage about nuclear weapons, we hide under the desk.
Yeah. Well, here's what we could do. And this takes you and I both worked for President Reagan. President Reagan thought outside the box. He wanted to win the Cold War without firing a shot. What did he do? He used economic weapons. He used technological weapons. Why are we not doing that? Why are we not launching some cyber attacks? Why are we not, not only energy independence, but energy dominance? Putin's making $1 billion a day on his oil sales, and every time the price of oil goes up, he gets richer. So how about energy dominance? We push the price of energy down, and we bankrupt him the way Ronald Reagan pushed oil from $40 a barrel to $18 a barrel in 9 months while you were in the Reagan administration.
Actually, ultimately $10 a barrel.
Yeah.
He decontrolled the price of oil, which my very good friend at the time, former Defense Secretary James Schlesinger, said was a terrible idea. So we had a bet on it. He said it would go to 100. I said to Schlesinger, it might go to 100, but it'll go to $10.
You were right.
And I won.
And we bankrupted the Soviet Union.
In the process.
And the process of doing that, and then the Soviet Union and the Russians took care of the rest of it.
So I don't understand, KT, with that in mind, I don't understand why we don't take stronger steps against the Russian energy companies and the banks, such as Senator Toomey's secondary banking sanction, for example. I mean, or I like Holman Jenkins. Europeans are importing more energy from Russia right now than they did before the war. Okay?
Correct.
Now, they could do that, but the cash would go into an escrow bank account, so Russia wouldn't get the money. I like that.
I think it's a great idea. Now, the Russians will then perhaps fiddle around with the pipeline. But, you know, what President Biden ought to be doing over there is he should have said to all the European leaders, especially Germany and France, we got your back. We're gonna give you energy security. It may not happen this week, but we are going to build, at our expense, we'll build liquefied natural gas terminals. We are unleashing the American energy industry. The war on fossil fuels, over. We are now going to replace Russia as the major energy supplier.
Right, that could be his great reset. He won't do it because he's so ideologically or politically
But think about what
crazy.
that means. Is he's so enthralled and so sort of in the pocket of the far left of the radical environmental movement that he's willing to let Ukrainians die, that he's ready to let Vladimir Putin have his will on all of Europe, because that's the bottom line.
So that goes to my question. Does the U.S. government now, this administration, want the Ukraine to win?
I don't think so, because they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. I mean, for example, he's going over there and he's talking about humanitarian assistance. That's great. But how about giving the Ukrainians everything they need to fight for themselves by themselves? Give them all the air defense, the air defense systems, give them the planes, give them the anti-tank missiles, give them what they need to fight by themselves. They're doing the fighting for us. They're bringing Vladimir Putin to a very different place than he thought he would be 3 weeks ago.
That's what the Journal said this morning and the editorial page. It's a great point. The Ukrainians are fighting for us.
Right.
We need them as much as they need us at this point. So Biden did not mention, let's say, the Soviet MiGs. He didn't mention weaponry in general, which surprised me.
Why, you think he was going to actually give them anything?
I don't know. I mean, we've given them a lot of weapons.
We've given them some weapons.
But not everything they've
And we didn't
asked
give
for.
them when they needed it, to, quote, deter. And I don't know, this idea of, well, we're going to just sanction people. Why? Because we want to punish them? That's all great. I mean, I'm terrific. It's wonderful to punish them. But how about preventing the next attack? Because whatever Putin gets now, even if it's a stalemated solution, he comes back. Because he'll take a couple of years, he'll rebuild his military, energy prices will be high, he'll be back the same way he was back after Crimea.
That's the problem with the stalemated solution.
Yeah.
It'll leave him in place, so he might have half the country or the eastern half of the country. That'll just give him leverage to go the rest of the way the next time.
Well, that's why whatever happens at the end of this, nobody should invest in Russia. Nobody should loan Russia money. I mean, that's one of the ways Reagan won the Cold War, not only by putting down energy prices, but also by denying the Russians the ability to borrow money. in the international banking system, and also by stopping any technology transfer to the Soviet Union.
Now, as a former deputy national security advisor, how do you read the war? Okay, the fog of war is very difficult. No question Ukraine has done much better than everybody thought.
Totally.
No question Russia's done much worse than anybody
Correct.
thought. But as you look at this thing today, how do you assess it?
Well, unless we, NATO, we the West, give Ukraine what it needs to defend itself by itself, I think that Russia is going to do to Ukraine what it did to Chechnya 15 years ago. And it's just going to, there's not going to be two bricks standing on top of each other. And there'll be massive civilian casualties. And do we, the West, really, in our soul, do we want to stand by and let that happen? I don't think we go to World War III. But again, like Reagan did, take away his ability to make war. And then the Russians will do the rest. There's a problem he's got right now. All of a sudden, his defense minister hasn't been seen. His his armed forces chief hasn't been seen. A couple of senior intelligence officials have disappeared. He's got real
one
problems.
of his top economic guys, who I knew from years ago, Anatoly Chabai, he's gone.
He's gone.
And others have followed him out the door. I mean, it's really, you know, one wonders, there may be a lot of nasty things going on in Moscow that we're not focusing on. I wonder if Biden's focusing on that. Can I just tell you, I know it's a little bit snarky, but I would take away his boat, because that would embarrass him worldwide.
And I'd kick him out of the G20.
Yeah.
Get him where it hurts.
Not Indonesia has a veto power, but just kick him out of the G20.
Or if he wants to come, great, come alone. We're leaving. We're not going to be there. Because Putin cares what the world thinks about him.
I think so.
And right now he's an international pariah. And I think we should let the world understand why he's an international pariah.
Do you think Biden and NATO made any progress today?
No, I think, in fact, just the opposite, which terrifies me. If I'm Vladimir Putin and I'm watching that press conference,
what I saw.
Oh, I'm thinking, gee, they're going to, humanitarian assistance, that's the most they're going to pull together.
I know.
I don't think there's anybody standing in the way of, if Putin is looking at that, he's just seeing weakness, weakness, weakness.
I had the same gut thought. You're the expert in this area, but that was my thought. Putin will welcome this press conference.
Agreed.
KT McFarland, thank you on set, in person, in the flesh. I hope you come back.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be with you.
All right, terrific stuff.